How do you handle a mistake in a Form 10K? That depends on the type of a mistake it is, and sometimes the level of the mistake's materiality. Today on Zippy Point. I'm Brock Romanek, and I'm a big fan of yous. So each year, around 400 companies feel the need to amend their Form 10K. I have a separate Vid-Guide with a numerical breakdown of the reasons why companies do that, a link to which is beneath this video. But the second most common mistake is forgetting the signature or an exhibit. So an omission can be a mistake, just like having bad information in the Form 10K. So when you figure out a mistake has been made, you uncover it, and you hope you're not the reason for it. You should assess first what type of mistake it is. If it's missing something that's absolutely required, a signature, an exhibit, a CEO, CFO certification, that's something that clearly needs to be fixed. There's no materiality analysis to be done. But maybe it's more on the trivial side, a typo that doesn't change the meaning of a word, a sentence, a concept. In that case, I imagine most practitioners don't bother fixing the mistake. They let the 10K go as it is and hope they don't get sued, because it should be something that they don't get sued about. But note that a single typo might cause you to file that amended 10K. I just taped a Vid-Guide about how to fix an error in the Form 8K and noted this example of an 8K amendment filed to fix formally to formally. So if the error is in a gray area, I always err on the side of caution. It's pretty easy to file an amended 10K. So assuming you've decided to fix an error, how do you go about doing that? Well, let's first talk about the cover page. Rule 12b-15 denotes that the cover page must brand the filing with the Form 10K/A at the top. Companies also are required under Rule 12b-15 to indicate how many times that particular 10K has been amended underneath that. For example, amendment number 1, amendment number 2, etc. Here's an example for a second amendment. Otherwise, the cover page is the same, except most companies update the number of common stock outstanding to the most practicable date. Okay, how do you explain why you're filing this amended 10K? Well, you include an explanatory note. The page after the cover page indicates why the amendment is being filed. So in this example, it's being filed due to a statement. Mistakes in the financials and the numbers might cause you to file more than one amendment to your 10K, as you might be slowly unraveling the problem, progressing and making the fixes to the numbers, and you want to report out developments over time. But here's an example where there's a correction to a signature page. 3, piecemeal updating. So amendments must set forth the complete text of each item amended. That's in Rule 12b-15. So you aren't required to include the full boat of all the items in the Form 10K for those items that are not touched, although you can do that voluntarily if you wish. So you might even have an exhibits only filing on your hands if you're only making a change to one or more exhibits. You indicate that it's exhibit only in that explanatory note, and then you just tweak the exhibit index and include the amended exhibit as an actual exhibit. And here's an example of that. 4, date of which the amendment speaks. Should companies update all their disclosure when they amend their Form 10K? Well, I'm not aware of any CorpFin SEC staff authority for the belief that you do. Many practitioners argue that an amended filing speaks as of the original filing date. The fact that you're allowed to update only just pieces of the 10K seems to me to back up that belief. So I recommend that you include in your explanatory note something that clearly states that the 10K is not being updated entirely. An example, something like this. The reason why you would want to include this kind of note that's voluntary is that you want to limit any potential liability or any idea of any plaintiff that might want to come after you, alleging that the amended 10K was misleading because it suggested that everything in the original 10K had been brought current as of the date you filed the amended 10K. 5, signature. The amendment is only required to be signed by a duly authorized officer, one, of the company, as stated in Rule 12b-15, and then this CorpFin staff interpretation also bolsters that point. So unlike the original 10K, where you have both the CEO and CFO, they're required to sign, as well as a majority of the board, although you can do that by power of attorney. So here with an amended 10K, it can just be one authorized officer, and it's typically either the CEO or the CFO. But sometimes the companies will go ahead and use their powers of attorney to go ahead and sign on behalf of all the directors and both officers as well. That's voluntary. 6, CEO, CFO certification. So I have a separate Vid-Guide about when you're required to amend your CEO and CFO certifications. A link to that Vid-Guide is beneath this video. But the upshot is that for an amended 10K, you're going to always need to file a new set of Section 302 CEO, CFO certifications for the amended 10K. Those are the certs required by the SEC's rules. But you only need a new set of the Section 906 certifications, the ones required by the Department of Justice, if the financials have changed at all. So the Section 302 certs might be permitted to be abbreviated if there are no financials, but you still need to include them in the amended 10K. So go ahead and see that Vid-Guide, link to which is beneath, for what these abbreviated certifications for Section 302 certs look like if you have no financials in your amended 10K. So if you have to amend your 10K, even if it's an exhibits only filing, you still need to file at least an abbreviated set of Section 302 certs. That's even if only the CEO or only the CFO is actually signing the 10K itself, you still need a 302 cert from both those officers. So here's an example of a good explanatory note that's used to explain that the Section 906 certifications aren't included in the amended 10K, but the 302 ones are. And this kind of thing is fairly standard when 10Ks are amended. They have this in the explanatory notes. So this Vid-Guide is about fixing mistakes in the Form 10K. I have separate Vid-Guides about fixing mistakes made in the proxy, in the 8K, and in the 10Q. I also have other Vid-Guides about Form 10Ks. You can find those up on zippypoint.com, or you can search YouTube with the hashtags of hashtag 10K and hashtag Zippy Point. Let me know what you think.